The First Punic War was over. Carthage, the once mighty empire of the seas, was broken. Rome, the rising power of Italy, had claimed victory after a long and brutal conflict. But peace, even when it comes, doesn't always bring tranquility. The seeds of resentment, like poisonous flowers, had already begun to sprout. The First Punic War had ended, but the story between Rome and Carthage was far from finished. Rome had taken Sicily, a major blow to Carthage's power and pride. Imagine losing a valuable treasure you worked hard to obtain. That's how the Carthaginians felt. They were forced to pay a hefty sum in silver to the Romans, further adding to their humiliation. The wounds of defeat were still fresh, and the thirst for vengeance simmered beneath the surface. The Carthaginians returned home, defeated and bankrupt. The war had cost them dearly, but they were determined to rebuild their strength. They knew that Rome, like a hungry wolf, was always on the lookout for an opportunity to expand its territory and power. The ink on the peace treaty was barely dry when a new crisis erupted in Carthage, the mercenary war. These hired soldiers, unpaid and furious after years of fighting Rome, turned their swords against their former employers. Imagine a pack of wolves, hungry and enraged, turning on their master. That was the terrifying situation Carthage now faced. The mercenaries, a diverse and unruly bunch from across the Mediterranean, had a simple demand: pay up. They had risked their lives for Carthage, and now they wanted their due. But Carthage's coffers were empty, drained by the war with Rome. The situation was a powder keg, and the fuse had been lit. Carthage, already weakened by the war with Rome, teetered on the brink of collapse. The mercenaries, led by the cunning Spendius and the fierce Matho, laid siege to the city. Carthage, once a beacon of civilization and power, was now fighting for its very survival. Little did anyone know, this internal struggle would have a significant impact on Rome's future. As Carthage grappled with the mercenary rebellion, Rome saw an opportunity to further weaken its rival. While Carthage was distracted by internal strife, Roman legions moved swiftly to seize control of Sardinia and Corsica, two strategic islands in the western Mediterranean. Talk about kicking someone when they're down. Rome justified its actions by claiming that Carthage was in violation of the peace treaty. They argued that Carthage's inability to control its own mercenaries posed a threat to Roman interests. This was a thinly veiled excuse, of course, but it served Rome's purpose perfectly. The seizure of Sardinia and Corsica was a bitter pill for Carthage to swallow. Not only had they lost their own territory, but they had also gained a powerful and vengeful enemy in Rome. This act of opportunism would have far-reaching consequences, fanning the flames of resentment that would eventually ignite the Second Punic War. From the ashes of defeat, a new leader emerged in Carthage: Hamilcar Barca, a general known for his tactical brilliance and unwavering determination. He understood that Carthage needed to rebuild its strength and wealth if it ever hoped to challenge Roman hegemony. His solution? Iberia, a land rich in silver mines and ripe for conquest. Hamilcar, a true strategist, saw Iberia as a land of opportunity. He believed that by establishing a strong Carthaginian presence in Iberia, he could achieve two goals. Firstly, he could replenish Carthage's depleted treasury with the riches of Iberian silver mines. Secondly, and perhaps more importantly, he could create a new power base from which to challenge Roman expansion. However, not everyone in Carthage shared Hamilcar's vision. Many politicians, still reeling from the recent war, opposed further military adventures. They argued that Carthage should focus on rebuilding its strength at home, not on risky foreign conquests. Section 5. A young Hannibal, forging a legacy of hate. Hamilcar, undeterred by the opposition, set sail for Iberia with a small but loyal army. He took with him his young son Hannibal, a boy of just 9 years old. Standing before the altar of Baal, Hamilcar made his son swear an oath: eternal hatred of Rome. This pivotal moment would shape Hannibal's destiny and set him on a collision course with history. Imagine being a 9-year-old boy, witnessing your father, a revered general, making you swear an oath of vengeance against a powerful enemy. That was Hannibal's reality. From that day forward, hatred for Rome became deeply ingrained in his heart, fueling his ambition and shaping his destiny. Hannibal, growing up in the shadow of his father's ambition, learned the art of war firsthand. He accompanied his father on campaigns, observing his tactics and developing his own strategic mind. Little did anyone know that this young boy, hardened by war and fueled by hatred, would one day become Rome's most formidable adversary. Section 6. Silver and Swords, Conquering Iberia. In Iberia, Hamilcar proved his mettle. He fought a series of successful campaigns against local tribes, gradually expanding Carthaginian control over the region. The silver mines of Iberia began to flow into Carthaginian coffers, providing the much-needed wealth to rebuild their army and navy. Hamilcar was not just a conqueror, he was a shrewd administrator. He understood that to maintain control over Iberia, he needed to secure the loyalty of the local population. He forged alliances with Iberian tribes, offering them protection and a share of the spoils of war in exchange for their allegiance. The Iberian venture was a resounding success. Under Hamilcar's leadership, Carthage had gained a valuable foothold in Iberia, secured a new source of wealth, and begun to rebuild its military might. The stage was set for a confrontation with Rome, but this time, Carthage would be ready. Section 7. A Treaty and a Spark Saguntum, the Flashpoint. Years passed, Hamilcar died, and his son-in-law, Hasdrubal the Fair, took command of the Carthaginian forces in Iberia. He continued Hamilcar's policy of expansion, pushing the boundaries of Carthaginian control further north. Rome, wary of Carthage's growing power, signed a treaty with Hasdrubal, establishing the Ebro River as the boundary between their respective spheres of influence. The treaty, however, contained a crucial ambiguity. It made no mention of the city of Saguntum, a wealthy trading hub located south of the Ebro River, but allied with Rome. This oversight, whether intentional or accidental, would have disastrous consequences, providing the spark that ignited the Second Punic War. Saguntum, caught in the middle of this power struggle, became a focal point of tension. Carthage, eager to expand its territory and test the limits of Roman resolve, saw an opportunity in the treaty's ambiguity. Rome, on the other hand, viewed any attack on Saguntum as a direct challenge to its authority and a violation of the treaty. Section 8. The die is cast. Rome demands blood. In 219 BC, Hannibal Barca, now the commander of the Carthaginian forces in Iberia, laid siege to Saguntum. The city, fiercely independent and loyal to Rome, resisted fiercely. For 8 long months, the siege raged on, a brutal and bloody affair. Finally, the city's defenses crumbled, and Saguntum fell to the Carthaginians. The fall of Saguntum sent shockwaves through the Roman Republic. It was a direct challenge to Roman authority and a clear violation of the treaty, however ambiguous its terms might have been. Rome, outraged by the Carthaginian aggression, demanded retribution. They dispatched ambassadors to Carthage, demanding Hannibal's head on a platter. Carthage, however, refused to back down. They argued that Saguntum was south of the Ebro River, and therefore outside of Rome's sphere of influence. They claimed that Hannibal's actions were justified and that Rome was using the incident as a pretext for war. Section 9. Hannibal's gamble over the Alps to the heart of an empire. Hannibal, knowing that war with Rome was inevitable, had already devised a daring plan. He would take the war to Roman soil. He would cross the Alps, the towering mountain range that separated Iberia from Italy, and strike at the heart of the Roman Republic. It was a risky and audacious plan, fraught with danger, but Hannibal was not afraid of a challenge. The Alps were considered impassable by many, a treacherous barrier of snow-capped peaks, icy winds, and narrow winding paths. Hannibal, however, was undeterred. He assembled a massive army, including war elephants, and set off on one of the most daring military campaigns in history. The journey was grueling. Hannibal's army faced treacherous mountain passes, blinding snowstorms, and attacks from hostile tribesmen. Many men and animals perished along the way, victims of the unforgiving terrain and the harsh elements. But Hannibal, driven by his oath and his ambition, pressed on. He knew that the fate of Carthage rested on his shoulders. He would bring the war to Rome's doorstep, no matter the cost. The stage was set for one of the most epic confrontations in history, the Second Punic War. Hannibal, the brilliant Carthaginian general, stood poised to invade Italy, ready to challenge the might of the Roman Republic. The world held its breath, awaiting the outcome of this clash of titans.